Hi, Peter Charles here, Hooked Fly, fly fishing. Today we're going to learn a knot where we attach line to our hooks. And it's going to be can be called the Grinner Knot, the Union Knot, the Duncan Loop. It's all basically the same knot. So whichever name you want to use, we're going to tie that knot. So this is a relatively simple knot, and it is a slip knot. In other words, you can make it into a loop, and it will slide, of course. It will cinch up when a fish hits it, or you can tighten it straight down right off the bat. And it's the knot I use the most when I'm tying flies to my leader. So let's get going and see what's involved. So this is my hook here. Funny looking hook, I know. But anyway, pass it through. Get yourself enough tag. Now we make a loop here. And we put our main line alongside the loop. And you can see my line has gone underneath. So I've gone underneath, and now I'm going to loop through, and I'm just going to do it 3 times. You can do it up to 5 times if you want when you're tying using mono or fluorocarbon. So this is what it looks like now when it is ready to be tightened. And you've got the loops, and you can pull it tight. You can pull it to this extent here. Now, when you get it sort of cinched down, I want to take 5 minutes to a few minutes to talk about a major problem with this loop if you don't pay attention to tightening it. You can see right here, I've got my loop, my knot, and if I start to pull like this, watch what happens. You see how the line is sliding on the loop? And then it tightens up. Well, what you've just done is burned your tippet. I ran into this. I lost a bunch of fish. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I would always, when I retrieve my line, I'd see this little overheated curl at the end. And I couldn't figure out what was causing that problem, why I was having this issue. So what I learned to do with this knot is I would get it cinched down. But I would cinch it down by pulling on the tag. And I wouldn't, and I grab, you can see how I'm grabbing it. And I pull on the tag. I don't want the loop to slip. I don't want it to go through the eye of the hook. So I get it reasonably tight. And then what I do is I push it down. So I've pushed that knot, and I've wetted, of course, pushed the knot down to the eye of the hook before I start putting pressure on to really cinch it into place. And by doing that, I have not slid the tippet through the eye of the hook. You can get 2 problems with that. First, you're generating heat. The other problem is if the eye of the hook is not perfectly smooth, you're wrecking your tippet as you're pulling it through. So I highly recommend that you learn to just wet it, of course, snug it down by pulling on the tag. And when I'm saying pulling on the tag, it's 2 parts. You're pulling on the tag, and you're also gripping this line here with your thumb and forefinger so it doesn't move. And then you can pull that tag tight to a reasonable degree. You don't want it super tight, but you want it pretty well tight, is pretty close to being fully tight. And then you can just slip it, grab the knot with your fingers and just slide it down to the eye of the hook. And if you want to open up, if it's not really snug down too tightly, you can open it up like that, and you can fish it. If you fish it in this fashion, it's a Duncan loop. And you can fish it like that. Of course, if you get a fish, it tightens right up. And then you can end up with the same problem with damage to your tippet. So that's basically the uni knot, the Duncan loop, the Grinner knot, whichever one you want to call it. Pretty simple to tie, pretty quick to tie. As far as the number turns goes, 4 or 5 turns, typical with tippet or mono, fluorocarbon or mono. I've found when I fish salt water, I use only 3 turns of like a hard saltwater mono. I found that when I tried to use more turns, I couldn't really get that knot super tight, and it would pop on me. It was a real nuisance. So I usually didn't lose a fish, but I'd pick, say I'd unhook a small striped bass, and I'd look at the knot, and I could see it starting to open up. So I found that if I used just 3 turns and I would use my forceps to really reef on the tag, everything stayed put. It never popped open on me. So if you're going to be using hard saltwater mono, I think just 3 turns and really reef on the tag to tighten. But regular mono, smaller diameters, fluorocarbon, 5 turns, pretty good. 4 turns, 5 turns, you're good to go. So there we go. The uni knot, Grinner knot, Duncan loop, whichever you want to call it. Easy knot to tie, quick to tie, and effective as long as you don't cook the leader by yanking on the main line to tighten it. Cheers.